Trailers are probably one of the, if not the most, overlooked component to an excavation company. They go underrated, they go without a lot of glory, but they are essential. Trailers also, unfortunately, get neglected quite often. It's not until you're out on the road hauling a machine to a job that you have to start that day or the next day, and a tire blows or something breaks down, that's when it gets very frustrating, but that's also usually when it dawns on us that we've been neglecting our trailers. Well, today's video is about just keeping up with simple maintenance, showing what to expect, what to look at, and to keep simple issues from happening to keep your equipment moving and keep your company running smoothly. Hey, I'm Chad. This is Excavation Revelation, the place to turn to for tips, tactics, strategies, and where things such as trailer maintenance and inspections are revealed. I was going to go over real briefly some very quick things to look at. I just had this trailer inspected. It passed. It is almost 20 years old, but it still passes just because of little things that I keep up with to keep it going. It's just a good trailer and I hate to get rid of it. There are many good brands out there, but this one just seems to work well for me. So I just want to try to keep it as long as possible. But no matter what brand you have, you always just want to take a minute to look at your inspection. Make sure your stickers are good. Make sure your paperwork is in order too. Your registration and your insurance cards need to be kept with the trailer, or if you're always pulling the same truck, they need to be kept with the truck as well, just so they are readily available and you always know where they are. Start out up front, just make sure everything is hooked up properly as always. Check your wiring. Look for little things like this could possibly actually be an issue down the road. It's just the coating on the outside, but I probably should tape it up to keep some moisture out. Always check your chains, make sure that they are not showing any wear or tear or cracks. Sometimes it can happen, we don't even always realize it. They can come undone or you forget to hook them up and they can rot on the road. They get road rash, they get ground down. And as soon as that happens, they become real weak and you just want to replace them. It's not worth it. If somebody pulls you over, you're going to risk getting a fine. But more importantly, if your trailer comes unattached and they don't serve their purpose, it could result in a death or a severe injury that you just don't want to. You don't want that to happen. So you just want to make sure you're always just being on top of things. These ones actually are even probably kind of old. I could keep in mind about replacing them. Your brake cable, make sure that it's always in place. Inspect any little bolts that are hooking up your tongue. It's hard to believe, but most trailers just have a couple bolts that keep everything together. You want to just inspect them for wear and tear. Make sure that see right there, that one's snug, but this one's got a little play. I'm sure it's how the trailer's sitting. It's a lock nut, so I really don't think it's going to go anywhere, but it probably wouldn't hurt to snug that up a little bit. Always when you're hooked up, make sure your jack is up. And they've got a couple grease fittings on them to keep them lubed and maintained. Many people neglect that, but it usually comes back to haunt you. It's just a simple thing to keep up with. If you have a little port for your chains and binders, straps, they're very nice to have. They keep the stuff out of the elements, the snow, the rain, help keep them dry and to last longer. But you just want to make sure that if you have a door, it's not all banged up and it serves its purpose. Lights are one of the biggest issues with any trailer. It seems one day they work, it seems the next day they don't. Usually just a loose wire or a bad connection. Sometimes it's a bulb. Most of your running lights on the side of any trailer are going to be basically the same. They just put different color lenses on them. So it's a simple thing to keep with you, a little bulb. And anytime that it's not working properly, you can usually just change out a bulb. And sometimes that's the case. Or if you change it out and it still doesn't work, then you know it's a fuse or a loose wire. Always be checking your main support beams, your main I-beams in your trailer, just look for any signs of wear, any cracked welds. This one especially, since it's so old, I try to look under more often than other trailers just to make sure that things are okay. It is very rusty, but still it's holding up fine, and I haven't seen any major issues or major things wrong. Tires are very important too. Always be keeping an eye on your tread depth. 1/16 is the minimum that they can be. Some people use a coin to check them. You want to make sure they're wearing evenly. Also, when you're driving down the road, you want to make sure your trailer is staying behind you pretty square. It's not wagging around. It's not zigzagging. It's also not duck walking, basically off to the side. You want to make sure it's nice and straight, everything's in line. If something isn't working right or causing it to move, then you know you have an issue. Always check your lug nuts, make sure they're all in place, nice and tight. You should keep in mind these bearings, they get hot very easily if they're neglected. There's special grease bearings that are in there. It's a special type of grease. You basically just take off this dust cap. It's ideal to have the trailer lifted up. Then you just spin the wheel, pump some grease in. But they get neglected very often, and that's how bearings heat up, wear out, and ultimately then you start blowing tires or having issues with your axles. It's a simple thing, but they get overlooked very common. Also, you want to check your hangers, make sure there's no cracks, welds broken. Many trailers have a grease fitting here at the equalizer. You want to make sure that's lubed up, because these axles are going to be going up and down constantly, and that's a point that does have a lot of wear and needs lubricated more than we often do. Like I said, you want to keep an eye on your hangers, make sure everything's in place, make sure bolts are nice and snug. Check your trailer the whole way back, your main beams, your cross members, make sure everything's nice and that no welds are broken. Tail lights, when you plug your trailer in, you want to make sure that your four-ways are working, your turn signals work. One good way to do this is to, especially early in the morning, if you're back against the garage, you don't have to get out, you can just kind of see them reflecting off of the building. They're a very simple thing, but they seem to go haywire sometimes. If you have ramps, always be checking that they're secure in place before you leave. Sometimes we forget to put our clips in. It can happen. The deck also, especially an older deck like this, you want to keep an eye on. I usually try to put some motor oil on this periodically to help keep it from wearing out too much. I'm definitely due for a coat right now. But make sure all boards are tight, because you don't want to be driving down the road and all of a sudden them start popping up on you, because these I actually keep an eye on quite frequently. They're starting to bow a little bit on me, and I've actually put a couple extra screws in them to help keep them down. You never want to be on the trailer mainly and you fall through if your boards are all rotted, and that's just a bad situation. I fortunately never have fallen through, but I've heard guys that have. Again, just continue to do your walk around, check your lights, check and turn signals. It really doesn't take long each and every time you hook up to go over things. Tire pressure is one also key issue. Your tires are going to look like they're fine when you're empty, but it's going to change so much when you have an 8,000, a 10,000, even a 12,000 pound machine on your trailer. Now this trailer, it's only grossed at 12,000. I don't have a register at 12,000. It could hold 14,000, so I don't haul anything that heavy. I usually just haul my Bobcat and this mower, some forks, a couple buckets on it. That is one of the main reasons I have this style trailer, the deck over. I like to be able to put my bucket or my attachment up front, then have my machine on the back over the axles. And it's just easy to have access to everything. Then I can either grab it from the side or whichever direction for nice, easy use. But again, I just can't say enough about trailers and how underrated they are. A simple inspection like that, done in every time you hook up. It only takes a couple minutes. I strongly suggest actually crawling under there more often than you probably think about, maybe once a week or so, just to check things out. and they could ultimately save you a lot of problems going down the road. I'm sure some of you guys out there have some stories, or have heard some different stories of guys breaking down or blowing tires or things happening, so feel free to share. I'd love to hear some of them, and a lot of them can be prevented by just doing simple walk around, simple look over. And if you think something seems funny or doesn't seem right, it's not worth risking it with a heavy machine on there. Definitely get it checked out. Take to somebody who could look at it a little closer. Sometimes it's the manufacturer, sometimes it's just the local mechanic. It's just not worth having a $60,000 machine on going down the road, and all of a sudden your trailer breaks or something breaks loose, and all of a sudden you're risking tipping over or crashing or hurting yourself or somebody else. It's just not a good situation. Well, I hope that was helpful. Appreciate you guys watching. Catch you next time.